Good evening. Wel- Welcome to Financial Wellness Week in September 2022. My name is Katrina Ellis. Hello, everybody. The joys of technology. I'm not sure what point it cut off at. However, let's just roll with it and see how it goes. Not my favorite thing, but let's not waste time. I'll jump back in. So I think I was talking, setting the scene for the week. So we are going to have three educational calls today, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, and then we'll have two Q&A calls on Tuesday and Thursday, an opportunity for you to ask your questions. So what I want to do tonight is I want to start with the basics, and I want to chat you through what financial wellness means to you. And what really, I suppose, when a lot of people think about financial wellness, they think it's a very wide variety, and I get very different answers when we ask that as to what it means. So I suppose we're gonna dive into that, and I'm gonna get you to work through the workbook and have a think about what specifically it means to you. Okay, so to give you a little bit of background first, I started to give this and I don't know where it got cut off, so I won't know until the recording. So excuse me if I'm repeating myself. So who am I? Why am I well versed in this subject, and why do I do this financial wellness week? So I'm originally from Ireland. I've got three kids. They are 13, 11, and 9. I've home educated them to primary level, so I've got one still in of being home educated. And that was a large piece for me as to what financial wellness meant to me. My educational background, I have a Bachelor of Commerce from University College Cork, and I've done a number of qualifications as a qualified financial advisor, financial services diploma. I'm a qualified estate agent, and several other things in the alternative therapy space. So I've done a lot of studying. I love personal development. I really am a huge believer in education, in lifelong learning. Every day is a learning day for me, and it's something I have. It's definitely very, very high on my values list. So that's who I am and where I've come from. Um, in terms of financial wellness, when I think of financial wellness, as I mentioned already to you, for me, home education was a massive piece of it. It was something that meant a lot to me to be able to have the means with one strong income with my husband to be able to have the choice to stay at home, and that was hugely valuable. Other things that it means to me, it means the ability to have the choice of, how much to work, what to work at, where to spend my time, to be able to have time to give to my hobbies, to be able to spend time with my family and friends, to be able to attend those really important milestones for my children mainly, and never to have to compromise that with work. So those kind of things for me, it's not about personally for me, to have a private jet, to have yachts, to have all the trimmings or trappings. Yes, so I like nice things, and that's something I like to spend money on. Absolutely, I liked good quality. For me is really important. I will go with less. I would sooner go with less of a better quality than have a mountain of substandard stuff. So that's just personally for me. So, and I can't overemphasize the importance of getting clear as to what financial wellness to you means, because that is hugely important. What it means to me may have overlap with you, but your particular perspective on what it means to you is massively important, because it's not until you get clarity as to what it means to you. So if I was to wave a magic wand and say, the ideal of what you would like in your life in terms of financial wellness can be given to you in the blink of an eye with a flash of a wand, then what would it look like? And it seems to a lot as that it's a very simplistic question, but it has proven time and time again, personally in my own experience and working clients one to one and in groups, that getting clarity on that is huge, because it also it not you know how to navigate the road ahead based on what it is you're looking for. Also, when you arrive at that point, you realize that you look back and see all the achievements you've made, because if you don't know where your end destination is, it is impossible to know when you've arrived, and it makes life and it makes decisions much more complex. So getting clarity on that is a huge piece, and one that I would encourage you to spend time thinking about. And just in the slides in front of you, for those of you who live in the Isle of Man, you recognise a picture. It's Castletown Harbour, and I live just my house is out of shot on that shot, but just down the road there, I can see the harbour from my bedroom window. And where I live has been a huge part of my financial wellness also. Living close to water, living in a place where other people come to go on holiday. And every day I walk out, even in the bad weather, I really am so grateful for where I live because it just makes me smile every time. So if you're living somewhere that really gets you downhearted, that's not, it's good to have that awareness and to understand, well, yeah, okay, this is where I am now. And I am grateful that I have a home and I have, I can do the things that you're doing right now. But if it's not where you want to be long term, then where do you want to be? And ironing out the details as to what that looks like is hugely, hugely important. So take your time to work through the workbook that accompanies this. So if you go to the page with the helpful links, or if you're on the stream here, I think it has a workbook to the side. You can download it there. Do it online, make notes. You don't necessarily need to print it off. Just answer the questions that are in that, because they will give you some thinking time, maybe after the call, to really flesh out what it looks like. And again, I can't emphasize the importance of getting clarity on that. Okay. So, moving on. In terms of financial wellness, then, also from my perspective as to where I came from, what qualifies me in a position to be talking on this? So, in 2015, I lived in Ireland in the house you see before you, a beautiful detached dormer house in Ireland. And I absolutely fell in love with this house the first time I saw it. And it was outside our budget at the time, but it was in the middle of the crash, and we were able to negotiate a price that worked for us and worked for the vendor. So it became my home. It became a home where two of my babies were born, and it became somewhere that I had huge happy memories. But at a point in 2015, things didn't look quite so bright as they do maybe to people looking at the picture. It became somewhere that I really struggled to appreciate. It felt more like a noose around my neck rather than somewhere really beautiful to live. Why did I feel like that? I felt like that because we had one income coming in. I had given up my corporate job in the financial services and retail banking in Ireland to be home full time with my kids, and that was a privilege in itself. At the time, it didn't really feel like that, but looking back, it absolutely 100% was. And we had two mortgages, and the mortgage on the house in the picture and mortgage on a house in Dublin where we lived previously. We were unable to sell at that time for numerous reasons, and so we became accidental landlords. Now, that may seem like a quality problem, but when you've got two 100% mortgages and you've got one income coming in and three small kids, that's a lot of outgoings and that's a lot of financial pressure. And I felt that. And I felt that. And I also looked at my three kids and thought, what does the future look like for us, where we're going? And it looked and felt really grim. And I felt the weight of that. And I wanted to do something different, but I didn't know how. And so my first step was realizing that I wasn't where I wanted to be, and the future really did not look like anything that I wanted to happen. So it involved awareness, first of all, that something needs to change, and then lots of reading and research, and eventually taking time and investing with a mentor who I still work with to this day to educate myself about this. So, I'm from a Bachelor of Commerce background, business, money, it's numbers. They were something that I was always strong with, and I came from a banking background. But yet I didn't have the information or the knowledge to actually get myself to where I wanted to be financially. And that I was flummoxed at the time as to why that was. And in retrospect, looking back, it's very easy to see why. But at the time, I didn't know. And so I invested significantly with my mentor, and I did her program, which was a year-long program, and my life changed overnight. My perspective changed. So despite the fact that my situation, I lived in the exact same house, my circumstances were pretty much the same, it was like I was looking in one particular direction, and all I could see was, I was depressed about financial future. I saw no hope. I really was despondent as to what the world looked like for my kids and what I could give them. Yet, in one of the key shifts for me was in recognizing that whilst that was happening, if I also looked with slightly different perspective in a slightly different direction, just turning my head ever so slightly, I could see, wow, I am really lucky to be able to be home full time with my kids. I am really lucky to be able to put food on the table, to pay my bills, to cover two mortgages. And I had my health. So I had a huge amount to be grateful for. And in that very simplistic recognition and awareness of what I actually had, despite the challenges and the fact that I wasn't where I wanted to be, that was a huge shift. And that was step two, shall we say. Awareness was one, and moving forward in terms of realizing, wow, I have a lot, taking stock as to where I was. That was a big shift. And it was from that point of gratitude and really understanding how much I had to be grateful for that I moved forward. And in that period, I started to invest. I learned how to invest. It's my investment started with a very paltry €20, and that is 100% truth. I made some very poor investment decisions, but I learned, and very quickly I started making better and better investment decisions and getting the returns to show. And then I got myself to the place where I had a defined benefit pension, which was deemed to be the golden egg of pensions. And I decided through research and education that I was better off moving it. And so I got myself to a place of confidence that I was absolutely confident in doing that. Yes, it was a nerve-wracking thing to do, but to move from somebody who, probably should know those things, but yet they weren't taught, to being somebody who was 100% confident in dealing with that. And that it felt like I had my future in my hands in terms of the pension. It was a massive deal, and it was a significant amount of money, and I didn't want to get it wrong. So piece by piece, I broke it down and gradually moved it. So that was massive. And everything settled down. As part of my journey to financial wellness, we moved to the Isle of Man in the end of 2015. And that was a big part because it moved us from a jurisdiction with very high taxation to a jurisdiction with very low taxation, and our quality of life just soared, not just because our take-home pay had now increased significantly, but because we live in this beautiful place that you saw on the first slide. This was on my doorstep all the time. I felt so grateful for it. We still just had one income, nothing changed on that front. And things settled down, and we started to really enjoy our life here, and we fell in love with the island, absolutely head over heels for it. And it has remained like that since, until 2020. And obviously, significant event in the world happened, and it really changed the world significantly. My husband is an airline pilot, and overnight his income disappeared. So our one income that we had wiped, gone. There was no furlough here. We were receiving £200 a week for a family of five, and it was a very scary place to be. I had a really strong feeling at that time that his income wasn't going to return anytime soon. So I started immediately working on alternative sources of income. And that led me over time to getting my qualification as a estate agent. And by doing that, we acquired also 6 additional buy-to-let properties in the northeast of England. That was a massive step. We bought them all remotely. I set up a company based in the UK with my long-term friend from university, and who also had an interest in property and who wanted to add an additional stream of income also to her life. So doing that with somebody was an amazing piece. We added subsequently, where I'm sitting now with my tech veil, we converted where I'm sitting was an old garage and a storeroom to my left. And we converted those, and they were just dumping grounds, as a lot of people's garages are. And we saw the opportunity to add value to our house. It was about 30% of our downstairs ground floor area, and we converted that into a beautiful Airbnb listing, which has been earning us income for the last 5-6 months. And my perspective is that it is not quite at the point of covering our mortgage yet, but it's getting there, and it has added value to our house. So with the seeds of financial wellness planted in my head and with the know-how lodged in my brain, I knew what I needed to do. So even when COVID hit and our income was wiped, we had really good savings in place. So we never worried about paying the mortgage, the bills, putting food on the table. That was all taken care of. And we had a significant chunk of savings and we knew that would be okay. But it was hugely worrying that our income was gone. So the last 2.5 years for me have been focused on adding streams of income that have nothing to do with that primary source of income. And that has been hugely liberating. So there are very difficult circumstances from, our first experience with financial wellness in 2015 to now then being ultimately tested again in 2020. And, depending on your perspective, you could have taken it that, oh, look, this isn't meant to be. You just throw in the towel or whatever and rely on government handout to get through it. But I am of the perspective that I never ever want somebody else to hold my financial purse strings. I want to be the one who is driving it. I want to be the one who decides where the income is coming from. And I don't want to ever rely on money from somebody else. And that was a key learning from 2020. When the income was wiped, it was a case of, okay, well, what now? Where do we get our income? And it was adding streams of income that was key to turning the whole thing around. So your perspective, your mindset, whatever, label you want to give it, is massively important in your approach to financial wellness. And so that kind of gives you, I suppose, a snapshot as to some of the challenges I faced. Along that path as well, we have gone through proceedings for divorce. And at the last hurdle, the last paper went missing in January. And so we've left it kind of for now to see how that unfolds. But the financial independence piece for me was a huge part of my decision, my relationship. I knew that I was staying in a relationship because I was financially dependent. I had given up my salary. I had the capability to earn a very nice salary, and I had given that up. And I had, by doing that, left myself exposed. So in hindsight, what would I have done? I would have had my multiple streams of income set up before I went to maternity leave so that I was still financially independent before I actually resigned from my job. But hindsight is wonderful and all of that. But now I took the learning now and got that financial independence, and then came back to the table to say, okay, well, look, am I staying in this relationship for financial reasons, or am I staying in it for love? And it was an easier decision to make when I was able to look at it from the perspective of not making it for financial reasons. And I see that regularly around me on numerous occasions, where people they're stuck in relationships and they're stuck because they're financially dependent. And that's a tough position to be, because I've felt it myself. So there's a lot of my story that resonates strongly with other women in particular. So just know that, it hasn't been all handed to me on a plate. I don't think it is handed to anybody on a plate, really, to a large degree. I think everybody has their challenges in different forms. And so it's really about your perspective and an understanding as to how strong your motivation is to really do something about this. Okay. So coming on to the next piece is around the pain or pleasure effect and understanding which is your driver. So I kind of alluded to this in what I've shared with you so far in terms of the story. So I think it'll probably be apparent from my story that really pain was a massive motivator. So in the very beginning in 2015, that realization, wow, future is grim looking. I felt the intensity of pain from that, and I felt the intensity of the pain that my children would experience, and I knew I wanted different. And then again in 2020, that pain was a massive motivator to go, income gone, what do we do? Financially dependent, stuck in a relationship, what do you do? And the pain, kept hitting. And for me, pain is definitely the more strong motivator. And for a lot of people, I find it's the same. So this is important for you to understand. Is pain or is pleasure your driver? So I suppose if I use the weight loss analogy, if somebody is overweight, they've got some weight to lose, and understanding which motivates them better. Is it the idea of, having the body that they have in their mind that kind of drives them to the pleasure of what that would look like? Or is it the pain of getting to a weight that and health, having health downsides, health challenges, and really maybe not being able to run with their kids, not being able to walk upstairs without getting out of breath or whatever it is, the pain of that, understanding which is a stronger indication will give you the idea as to which motivates you better. So the same can be applied for financial wellness. So do you need to get to a very painful place financially where you're really struggling? You're struggling to pay the bills, you're struggling to bring in your income, whether you're employed or self-employed. You are just struggling financially. Or is it the idea of having, you know, all the financial wellness that you desire in place? Which is the stronger draw for you? And understanding, getting clarity on that is really important, because that will tie into something we'll discuss later in the week. So take some time out as you kind of go through the workbook to understand which of these is a better motivator for you. So challenges, and I've mentioned many of them on the call tonight. We all have them. They all take different forms, and there's nobody who is exempt from them. So what is it that you are experiencing? What are the challenges that you're experiencing? Maybe it's somebody in your life, maybe who it doesn't support your perspective on this. Maybe you think, wow, I really like what Katrina's done. How can I do that? But I don't have her experience. I don't have her knowledge. I don't have whatever the your reason is. It comes back to a decision. So know that we are all surrounded by challenges. Challenges are part of life. There is great learning in challenges. There's great learning in mistakes. So understanding and accepting that it's just going to happen. And I know now that even with multiple streams now added and being in a much stronger financial place, I will still experience challenges. But what I found with a better sense of financial wellness is that the challenges are easier to deal with when you don't have the money issue on top of that. So, say, for example, if somebody were to pass or somebody were to become very ill, you can focus on the emotional piece of that fully when you don't have money worries attached with that. Because if somebody gets ill and you have money worries, then that's a double weight. Whereas when you don't have the money worries, you can just focus on being with that person and focus on what you can do to help them in whatever the particular situation is. And there is huge benefit in that. So for example, having a parent who is ill and being able to press pause on whatever it is you're doing and being at their side, being able to care for them. There is huge, huge value in that, and it's a huge privilege to be able to do something like that. So, and that's what financial wellness gives you. Okay. So understanding that challenges are inevitable. So that was pretty much a snapshot view and an introduction to what financial wellness is about, a little bit about what the week is going to hold for you, a little bit about me, my journey, and getting you to think about financial wellness for you. So it may seem like small little pieces to cover, but they're hugely, hugely fundamental. And I can't emphasize that enough. Understanding that you and your mindset and what you do and how you view things is a huge part of your financial wellness, is a game changer. And when you understand that that doesn't lie anywhere outside you, whatever happens in the economy, we know we're in the middle of cost of living crisis, there's a lot of things challenging us right now. But if you look inside and see what you can do within your locus of control, there's a lot of things that you can do. It may not feel like it sometimes, but as we work through the week, I hope that if you're feeling now in a place of really disempowered, wondering how you're going to get through this cost of living crisis, then I want you to understand that the objective of this week is to help you take back some of that power and to help you understand that actually, regardless of what's going on outside, you have the possibility of really shifting on this and really making a difference on how you manage this. And for those of you with kids, your kids watching how you deal with this is amazing, because you're modeling financial wellness in at one level or another, and they're absorbing this. So it's massively empowering. And I see this on a regular basis with my own kids. You're not only educating yourself, but by doing this, you are then modeling a better way to deal with money, and they will, like sponges, absorb that. And I see my eldest now, he's working 3 jobs by his own choice, and he is saving for his first investment property at the age of 13. Totally unprompted by me. It was actually somebody outside the house who he shared this with. He hadn't said it to me. I knew he was working really hard, and yeah, it's just it's mind blowing as to how they watch what you're doing and they model it. And if you don't think it's important enough to do it for you, understand that whatever you're modeling right now, they are taking up the good, the bad, and the ugly. So why not model something really, really healthy for them in terms of money, in terms of financial wellness, and have that legacy change? If it wasn't something you grew up with, you experienced in your childhood, then here's the time to shift that. And I've seen that again myself as to how powerful that can be. Okay, so I hope I've given you food for thought tonight. In your own time, take your time to work through the workbook. There's some thought-provoking questions in there, some things that maybe might like to give a little bit of time to. Don't overthink it, would be my advice. Just work through and go with the top of your head as to what you think your answers are, and just give it a little bit of time. But most importantly, if you only do one thing from that workbook, I would encourage you to get clarity on what financial wellness looks like for you. Okay, so thank you for your time today. Apologies for the technical problem. Hopefully we will not have that tomorrow. And tomorrow on Tuesday, we will have our Q&A session. So if you have any questions that you would like to bring to the session, you can, if you want to do them privately, you can email them into me and I will answer them anonymously on the call. Or if you want to type into the chat box, you can also submit them live there. So whichever is the easiest way for you to do it. So thank you again for your time. I hope that you have gotten some inspiration and ideas from today's call, and I will see you again tomorrow.